Okay, so we need that line that is perpendicular to y equals 3x squared minus 7x plus 2. What do you know about a tangent line? It's going to create like perpendicular, right? Especially when you deal with a circle. The tangent line is going to be perpendicular to the radius of the circle. This happens to be a parabola, so find the equation of the line perpendicular to that curve. So what do you think the first thing is that we need to do? dy dx. What is dy dx? 6x minus 7. So I could come up with the equation for the tangent line, but I want the one that is perpendicular to it. So where does that get me if I use dy dx? That's the slope at any given point. We want the slope at what point? 0, 2. So if we want the slope, maybe I should write the word slope. So the slope at the point 0, 2, how do I find that? We're going to take the slope equation, which is dy dx. So we're going to take 6x minus 7, and we're going to replace x with 0. So the slope is -7. Now, what about a perpendicular line? What do you know about the slope of that? Because in parentheses, it says you should be able to decide what the phrase perpendicular to a curve means. Let me see if I got this on it. This is 1.5. I was hoping I had this on the handout. What do you know about the slope of perpendicular lines? Yep, they're the negative reciprocals. So the slope that we are actually going to use to come up with our equation for a line is we want the slope of the perpendicular will be 1/7, the negative reciprocal. So we want an equation for a line that has a slope of 1/7 and goes through the point 0, 2. So how do we write that equation for a line? Well, there's two different ways. You could look at it as this: y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Or you could think of y equals mx plus b. What do you notice about that point right there? If you were to plot 0, 2, where is it? Y-axis. So it's right there. What do you notice about that point? It is the y-intercept. So you could just say your equation for your line is going to be y is equal to your slope of 1/7 x, and the y-intercept is positive 2, and there's your equation for your line. Now, if you substitute over into this equation, you're going to get y minus 2 is equal to 1/7, and then you're going to have x minus 0. Well, instead of saying x minus 0, you would probably say y minus 2 is equal to 1/7 x. But if you move the 2 over to the other side, you're back over to y equals 1/7 x plus 2. So you have the equation for your line. Okay, well. $35. at what values of x will the slope of the curve y equal x cubed plus 2x be positive? Well, first of all, what do you know about a cubic? What's that graph look like? Yep, Jaden showed us like that. So if I think about it, where's that slope positive at? Looks like almost everything though. I mean, if I come back, if I look at a tangent line over here, when I touch it, that's probably going to be positive. So as you move this along, I think you're always going to have a positive slope and it's not going to face this way. But let's see, slope. So slope tells me dy dx. What is dy dx? 3x squared plus 2. Well, I want to know where's that going to be positive at? Now, there's different things you could do when you say where is it going to be positive at. You look at that and you say, okay, if I let x be a positive number and I square it, it will still be positive. Times 3 is positive plus 2 is positive. If x is 0, 0 squared is 0 times 3 is 0 plus 2 is 2. That's positive. If x is negative, what happens? If it's negative 1, what's negative 1 squared? 1. What's negative 4 squared? 16. It's still positive, right? So no matter what I let x be, when you square it, you're going to get a positive value, except for 0. But then when you add 2, it makes it positive. But you're getting a positive number times a positive number plus a 2, it's going to remain positive. The other thing you could do is you could say, okay, I'm going to take 3x squared plus 2 and I'm going to set it equal to 0. If I set that equal to 0, that's going to give you a critical point where your slope may change, a pivotal point. But if I set that equal to 0, I'm going to subtract 2. So 3x squared is equal to negative 2. You're going to divide by 3. X squared is equal to negative 2/3. And then you take the square root. Can you take the square root of a negative value? No. So the slope is never 0. The slope will always be positive. So your answer for this one is all real values of x. You're always going to have a positive slope for this one. And move to the next one. 36. 36 says, for what values of x is the slope of the curve y equals 2x squared plus 4x minus 5 positive? So what do we need to do? Dy dx. What is dy dx? 4x plus 4. And we want to know where is that going to be positive at. So I want to know where does it equal 0 at. So if I set that slope equal to 0, you're going to subtract 4. And you're going to divide by 4. And you get x equals negative 1. So if I think about those values, if x is equal to negative 1, I get a 0 slope. What about values less than negative 1? Give me a value less than negative 1. Negative 5. If I put negative 5 in here, I get 4 times negative 5 plus 4. What do you notice about that value? It is negative. So I have a negative slope for all values over here. Any value less than 1 is going to give you a negative slope. What happens for a value greater than negative 1, such as 0? If I put 0 into my slope equation for x, you're going to get 4. That's a positive slope. What happens if you put negative 1/2 in there? 4 times negative 1/2 plus 4. That gives you negative 2 plus 4, which is 2. That's a positive value. So your slope will be positive for all values greater than negative 1. So how do I show that my slope is positive for all values greater than negative 1? You could write that in words, all values greater than negative 1. Or do you remember interval notation for that? It's parentheses because it does not include negative 1, and it goes from negative 1 to infinity. Or you could say all real values where x is greater than negative 1. Another way you could state it. I personally like the interval notation. It could probably be used a lot in college, but I could be wrong. So what? Logan was telling me this morning she's really tired. It's a run week, honey. So she has a game today. She had quiz bowl yesterday. Tomorrow she has to serve at church. Thursday is Leah's game. Friday is Leah's game and quiz bowl for Logan. And Saturday is a basketball tournament for Logan. We're just going to go. And tonight they sing for FFA. They carol at the care home or something. So we're here till like 8 o'clock. We were here last night till about 8:30. 8 o'clock. Probably we got home about 8:30. 37. At what values of x is the tangent line to the curve y equals 2x squared minus 9x plus 7 parallel to the line y equals 3x plus 1? So we have this curve. The curve is y equals 2x squared minus 9x plus 7. And we want it parallel to y equals 3x plus 1. So that's nice. This is why I hold it. I don't know if you guys wonder why I held it off to the side. Okay, what do we need to do? If it's parallel to y equals 3x plus 1, what's that telling me? Slope is 3. So I need to figure out when is the slope to this parabola equal to 3? D by dx, which is equal to 4x minus 9. You set that equal to 3. So you get 4x is equal to 12, so x is equal to 3. So at what point x equals 3? Hmm, 38. Sketch the two graphs. You probably need some graphic. So, okay, I better find it first.
Did you start giving out candy canes?
I have not started giving out candy canes. But you see them all over there, don't you? Those are my favorite. Those are Kool-Aid ones. I got them all at Dollar Tree. Okay, how many? I got pause. Sorry, Natalie. move your 1 over, so you get -1 is equal to -2x. And if you divide by -2, you get x is equal to 1/2. So it intersects at the point 1/2. So I basically need to find the slope for each one of those equations when x is equal to 1/2. And hopefully they are negative reciprocals. So we look at y is equal to y equals x squared. And if I want to find the slope, I have to do dy dx, which is 2x. And if I find it at the point at x equals 1/2, I put that into the equation, and 2 times 1/2 is 1. So the slope of the blue line is 1, which would make sense because if I sketch this in right here, it says you're going to have a slope of 1. So what I need to know is when I sketch the green slope in right there, that is perpendicular to it. So we take the equation, y is equal to x squared minus 2x plus 1. And I find dy dx. So dy dx, which is slope, is 2x minus 2. At the point where x is equal to 1/2, we are going to get 2 times 1/2 minus 2. What's 2 times 1/2? Number times its reciprocal is 1, and your slope is -1. Since your slopes are negative reciprocals, what's that tell you about those two lines? Two tangent lines. They intersect at right angles. The last one. The C means what? Oh, the C in front of 39?
Okay.
Calculator. You're going to need your calculator. Find the slope of the curve. Y equals pi x cubed minus the square root of 2x squared plus the square root of 3 at x equals 1.592. I kind of like the strawberry one. That's a good one. All right, so what do I gotta do? Find the slope. Dy dx. Please you spit it out. What happens when you take the derivative? And just throw in pi's and radicals, but it's still the same thing. So you're going to bring this down and multiply. And you're going to decrease it by 1. You're going to do the next thing, bring down the exponent and multiply. And decrease it by 1. And this is a constant, so it doesn't have anything. So there's your dy dx. Now what you have to do is you have to put in the value of 1.592 and type it into your calculator. And you get your answer. Oh. Let's say what? No. Just the slope. I got the wrong answer. Did I answer the last one correctly? Yeah. Is this one, did you get 19.384?